Hi, it's Doug here with another update on the Joshua blog, and just want to throw a quick shout out to my wife Natalie Hankins, just to thank her for the new do. Pretty excited to have my hair cut. Alright, what we're looking at this week is a section in Joshua between, let's double check here, it's going to be between Joshua 4:15 all the way through 5 verse 9, and there are really two significant things that take place in this passage. And so what I want to do today is talk about those two significant things and then leave you with a couple of questions to think about. And subsequent blog posts this week will unpack each of the verses in particular. But today, just give you kind of a general overview of what's going on there. The first significant thing that takes place is that the priests come out of the Jordan after the Israelites have crossed over, and the waters kind of rush back together. And the Jordan goes back to just being where it is at harvest time, a little bit overflowing at the banks, but it's no longer spread apart. And immediately afterwards, Joshua commands one member from each tribe, each of the 12 tribes of Israel, to pick up a stone and to build a statue of remembrance, as it were, so that anytime Israelites passed by that place, they'll remember what the Lord did for the people of Israel. And again, this was a pretty supernatural event, a significant event in the life of the people, but the impact is kind of twofold here. Number one, God wants the people to remember what happened, but equally as important, God wants the children of the people to remember what happened here. And so they do build a little statue of remembrance there in light of that. The second big thing that happens just in the first part of chapter 5 is that Joshua has everyone in Israel who has not been circumcised, which we are led to believe by the text, that it's all of the sons of Israel, and they're being circumcised a second time, and so there's a giant covenant renewal type situation that's going on, because circumcision has always been the symbol that people are associated with Israel, with the people of God. And so the sons of Israel circumcised a second time. It's a big commemorative moment on the other side of the Jordan as they've now officially entered into the Promised Land. So it's a big deal. Now, the fact that those events are stacked on top of one another, back to back, I think illustrates something significant here. If you remember, halfway through chapter 2, the spies are in Rahab's house, and they make a blood covenant with Rahab that basically says, if you don't tell on us, then we'll spare you, but if you tell on us and blood falls upon the heads of your family, it's not on us. Basically trying to protect themselves there. And they use a lot of blood language in that second half of chapter 2. And most of the commentators are in agreement that among the things that are theologically important about that passage is the spies, and the vision of the people of Israel was that the fall of Jericho was going to be a very bloody battle, and that the onus for the effort expended upon the battle was really going to fall upon the Israelites. Well, so we know what happens in Jericho a couple chapters later, in that it's the Lord who tears down the walls of Jericho. It's the Lord who topples the city. It's the Lord who does all these things. And so I would suggest to you that these two remembrance moments, both building the statue of remembrance after the spreading of the Jordan, and also the covenant renewal, are two big moments that God does and directs and leads the people, and leads Joshua to lead the people to do, in order to remind them of who he is and what he's done for them. You can think of these as two big worship moments. They have a big worship service on the other side of the Jordan. They also have a big worship service as they're consecrating themselves to the Lord on the other side. And I think that's significant both for them, but I think you could also find some devotional ideas there as well. A couple of questions I want to leave you with. Number one, in Joshua 5:1, I'm looking here on my screen, you see that the kings of the Amorites who are beyond the Jordan, and all the kings of the Canaanites who are by the sea, heard that the Lord had dried up the waters of the Jordan for the people of Israel. Question for you: why is it significant that the kings of the native people who are in the lands, the Promised Land, had heard, messages got back to them about what God had done in the people of Israel? Why is this significant? I want you to think about that this week, and maybe I'll answer it in a later post, maybe on Friday or something like that. The second question I want you to be thinking about is really one that's more of a practical question, and that is this. Of what benefit is the spiritual discipline of creating something like a statue of remembrance or a monument of remembrance? Of what benefit is it to us as Christians today to consider the principle about building some type of monument or creating something that will help you to remember what the Lord has done? That's the second question for you today. I want you to think about that, and I'll blog later on in the week about both those questions. That's all I have for now, and I'll check you next week.